Hello, I hope you are well. And in today's session, I would like to speak to you about the importance of being a super good problem solver at what you do, at what you are working on. Always think about how can I make it better, how I can solve this current problem, what's the situation now, what's working, what's not working, and what would be the best approach to fix it. For instance, you are digging in an API and there's an issue with the database. Maybe the database is just down and this is on production and something is like the API is the load is way too high and we need to decrease this. It doesn't scale correctly. We need multiple clusters. We have to switch something to another. Maybe just the database is full of storage or another problem and you are digging there. Think how I can make my debugging time better, more efficient. And by having, for instance, a chat AI like ChatGPT, Cloud Chat, could be DeepSeek, could be any other kind of AI, good AI, decent chat, you will have a custom window where you will use it as your debugger, as your rubber duck, and you will ask a bunch of questions for it. You say, okay, right now this is all of my findings, and this is what's not working. You mentioned also all of the details of your instance infra on AWS, and you mentioned the database, the kind of storage left, and the more details you mention, the more you dig, the more you add in, and the more clues you will have. And you can also, of course, share screenshots. And now you have to be careful if there are no any sensitive details, because you shouldn't trust also, like never send any sensitive information in the chat. But that way, by having the AI chat as your DevOps body, where you can really rely on, and you can be faster at debugging. And then from there, you think what didn't go well, what went wrong, maybe it's a recent release, and write down all of the clues, and then start by eliminating one per one. So all of the possibilities, the available possibilities that could have caused the problem. And from there, you will eliminate the ones, you start by the ones that are the most likely to have caused the problem. And at the bottom of the list is the least likely, like recent updates, recent maybe migration, and you go from there, and then step by step you move. And have that as a principle. Every time you're on call, the service is not available. Always identify also the previous incidents you had in the past, because they might be correlated. And the more you debug, the more you do this, the better you will get. Most of the time, actually, it's funny because most of the time, there are always correlations between the incidents. It depends, of course, if it's a new release, if it's a new feature, a new update in the code. It might be slightly different, but you will understand that there are always correlations. So have like all of the data points. You can link all of the previous problems, and lastly, write everything, communicate as well if you are with your team, or you can, I suggest you to have a status page A status page really helps also the customers to know, oh, the service is not available at the moment. All right, I should wait. In my case, I use Stackful, so something like this. It's a free status page, and it's really good to always have a status page on your subdomain. And they can also subscribe, having their email, so the customers will also be able to be notified when your service is again up and running. The last thing you really want to do is always how could have we prevented? How can the issue could have been prevented, and what we can put in place to avoid the same problem. Of course, like, you might not be able to prevent the current problem, and it does happen that it's from AWS, for instance. If you are on AWS, it could happen that their data center is down, and if that specific location, that specific region is down, well, how could we have prevented to have our service down as well? Well, for instance, having a backup option when AWS region is down, to move to a different region when that specific region is down, or to move to another cloud service. And having that as a B plan, like you could just need to deploy everything again on a different cloud service quickly with a pipeline. It might be a manual process because, of course, AWS is not down that often, but it does happen like once a year or twice a year max. It doesn't last for long, but it might be crucial for you to always have, of course, your service up and running. This is really what you want. You never want any downtime. You want a zero downtime service, and that might be the option to choose. And the very last thing is also to use powerful tools. Of course, like you have CloudWatch on AWS, you have X-Ray, it's also very powerful, but you could also have different tools available for you that can help you to debug better. Logentries, it's also a good one. You have a lot of login free search tools where you can very easily, very quickly look for any logs and identify the problems from there. Of course, like when it's more on the infra side, you might not have all of the logs, but even if the database is down, you would have one kind of logs. If you wrote your application correctly with enough logs, you will have some clues. And having some levels, some error levels for each log, it helps too, because you can only look for the critical ones, for the fatal errors. I wish you all of the best. Again, this is like, practicing to be a better debugger, but I'm sure this will help. And let me know in comments what's your best way to debug. I will be curious to understand and to see if you do it differently, and if you have different suggestions as well. At the end of the day, this is about sharing knowledge, and that's what matters the most.